Well, hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. It's a very serious live stream today, guys. We're talking about uh, what it takes to become a famous home theater YouTuber. Um, it's just for Elon. I am not. No, what's going on,
Okay.
everybody? So, well, it's good to be back after all the crap that was going down the past week for us. We didn't know if we were gonna have a house after all of that
Yeah.
fun
Well, before
Hurricane
we before we
Milton
get
stuff.
into it, let's tell us how it went. What went down? I'm curious.
Well, we're in Central Florida, so
Yeah.
we didn't get it as bad as other folks, thankfully. But yeah, around like
Yeah.
5 6 p.m., the wind started picking up, and it uh it just kind of kept picking up. There was about a hour and a half, 2 hour period where we were getting gusts of like 90 95 miles per hour.
Oh, yikes.
And it sounded so weird, man. It didn't
Mhm.
sound good. Thankfully, we have a concrete block house, so we don't have like a wood frame house.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I was more of like, well, our roof's a little older. I hope it holds up, and yeah, it did. Yeah, but yeah, those gusts. We were thinking about going into the closet. That's how bad it got. Um,
Ooh.
to kind of take cover because, yeah, we have like a plastic fence, like what do you like the vinyl sided fence,
Mhm.
and I like opened the window or opened the blinds to the window and was just watching the fence bow in like this in the wind. It just looked like
Oh,
it was like a cartoon, like it didn't even look real. And I'm like, this
yeah.
is insane. And also, just as everything kind of kicked off, we had about 10 to 12 tornadoes like around us, like tornado
Dude.
warnings, I should say. I don't want to say actual tornadoes, but yeah, some touched
Yeah.
down. Thankfully we didn't get any of that stuff. But yeah, just not as much rain, thankfully. And we're
Mhm.
in like a kind of a higher area, but we're surrounded by a bunch of lakes. But still, it was
Right.
no flooding or anything. Yeah, and honestly, uh, I like got on the roof and looked. We didn't lose any shingles. It was all the
Oh.
neighbor's house because we live like second to the end, and the neighbor's house on the
Mhm.
end got battered. Man, like her house was,
Oh,
yeah, like her shingles, like she's missing like a ton. So it was
yikes.
I realized because like these don't look like our shingles. They're like cut in half, they're like kind of cut in half or like
Yeah.
ripped apart. I was like, this doesn't match the color. I'm like looking at it, like these aren't. 'Cause I picked them all up in the yard. But yeah, thankfully we never even lost power. It flickered a
Oh,
couple
wow.
times. Yeah, but we
Yeah.
had power the whole time, and um, other people just weren't so lucky. My sister who lives closer to the coast, they were fine and everything, but they were without power for 5 days. So,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, they didn't and uh, food and gas and everything was like scarce even prior to
Mhm.
the storm. So like we just like lucked out because we got gas just literally the night before.
Mhm.
And we had like food and stuff. We didn't want to get too much food and put it in the fridge in case the power went out. We got a lot of dry
Right.
stuff, and yeah, it was
Yeah.
um yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're safe.
Yeah, Joel actually asked a great question. Did I prep my home theater and other gear in case of flooding? I got everything off of the floor that I could, save for like the really heavy subs. Um, I love my wife, and she will say this herself. She is a weakling. So moving a 75 to 100 pound subwoofer, that's not happening. Um, we
Yeah.
are knock on wood. We are not in any type of flood zone or flash flood zone. Um,
Mm.
we uh, we've never had an issue with water. Some of the communities closer to the lakes do. But yeah, so thankfully though we didn't have any issues, really, other than some palm tree limbs, just some dead ones. which we needed to trim it anyway. So let Milton you did
Hey.
by knocking those down. But yeah, it was not fun, and I don't want to go through it again. We do we I couldn't we don't have hurricane shutters. So but
Mm.
next year we're definitely getting them in case we deal with
Yeah.
anything like this. And we'll probably end up like prepping and then leaving if it's that kind of that was scary. It was scary for,
Yeah.
you know, both my wife texted me at like 1 in the morning. She's like, "This is really scary." And because
Mm.
I was just like in the office here, just because I was like watching a YouTube video, didn't want to like wake her up. And
Yeah.
yeah, she texted me, and that's when I went into the bedroom. Yeah, but yeah, no,
You had some family that were staying with you too?
yeah. They were in. It was my sister in
Yeah.
Palmetto, so they they put plywood on the windows and everything, and they got out and they were here with us, which is always fun. But yeah, they were able to go back the following day. But they had
Oh,
not
wow.
been
Okay.
their power was out, so they had to throw some stuff away. And but they
Mm.
kind of figured that they were just surprised we didn't lose power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my sister-in-law um was and like I play hell divers with them a lot, and
Mm.
their house completely flooded. They're in Plant City, and
Oh,
so they lost their house. Yeah, pretty much. They're currently
yeah.
in Tennessee right now. They evacuated to Savannah, Georgia. But
Mm.
man, it was yeah, not good, not good. Um, Rich Little Poor Boy. I love that name. All I can think of is Rich Little, the famous impressionist. Um, was this my first major hurricane? No, it was not. I had been through stuff. I've lived in Florida my whole life, so I'd been through a lot of storms, but this was the first one where we were kind of in the direct path. And we
Right.
were and we were in Central Florida. I've always been closer to the coast. So yeah, we lived in Tampa a couple years ago, and we bought this house and moved from Tampa to Central Florida. So I can't imagine if we were still in Tampa. Like, yeah, no
Yeah, they got
thanks.
hit hard.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I know that. Oh, he's in the Caribbean. Are you a pirate? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Pirates of the Caribbean. Get Disney's gonna sue me. Just lost a fan too. No, yeah, I imagine folks in the Caribbean get hit. They get hit a lot, man. Like everything goes through the
Yeah.
Caribbean. It seems like. Um,
Yeah. Pretty much.
wow, yeah, it's I can't imagine. But yeah, it kind of to kind of bring it back on topic here, I guess. Into home theater. Period had sent me a bunch of speakers to that I was going to install, but I got them on Tuesday and pretty much couldn't do anything with them until this weekend, this past weekend. So they were just sitting there.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
installed the TC65s and the side and back surrounds, their Theatris, and I also have the T65 Slims that I will be installing as the side and back surrounds in the next few weeks. Working on the mini DSP tutorial and multi QX tutorial and all that fun stuff. I feel like I'm going to inundate people with tutorials here pretty soon. They're going to go from like saying where is it to please stop. Like where are these tutorials? Please stop making them. We're done.
Ba-dum-bum-bum. I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I got a lot. Dude, I have 7 videos just on my on my computer, like just in Final Cut. Just I need to start editing them. I just haven't had the time with this hurricane stuff. I was working on videos during the hurricane.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Joel, I'll say right now, I love them. Uh, they're a major step up for the Pioneers. Um, obviously being, $1,200 each. However, I feel like I keep looking at comparative speakers, and it's like, man, what you get for $1,200 is pretty insane. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously, you have to be a fan of the aesthetics, or you have to not care about the aesthetics as much because they're not. I think they look cool. I like the way they look. They're very kind of industrial, but like not. Um, something like JTR, which has a lot of output and power, but they're very industrial looking, and they don't really fit into a lot of spaces because they are so big. Whereas these
Yeah.
guys, well, I mean, you have the T65s and the Slims and stuff. I
Mhm.
really like the aesthetic of them with or without the grills. Um,
Yep.
and what's crazy is like they're $1,200. Yeah, if you buy like 7 of them, that's a lot of money, but like I still think that like what you're getting for that $1,200, you may end up spending like more money with another company to kind of get similar performance. It just depends on the speaker and you know that kind of things. So
Yeah,
um
exactly.
I think that's what I keep going to. I actually mentioned it in the videos that I filmed. It's like, yeah, for this amount of money, like, you don't really get this kind of value here in this performance and in this form factor. So
Mhm.
but oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's like, you know, yes, we have biases,
Yeah.
but it's because we have experienced them. So, like, yes, I know that we had Colin on from Aperion Audio last stream a couple weeks ago, but still, it's like we wanted to invite him on because, it's like Hair Club for Men. It's like, I'm not only a president of Hair Club for Men, but I'm a client and I use
Yeah.
it. It's because, like, we can't help but say good things about Empyrean Audio because for the value of what you actually get, is, I think SVS and Empyrean are like neck and neck when it comes to value and what you're actually getting quality-wise.
Yeah, yeah. Rich, these are the Theatris T65s. These are my front 3 currently. Um, and then can you see these? Yeah, you can see those. These are the side and back surrounds currently that I just installed this past weekend. What's funny is I actually have them flipped the other way. I have the ribbon tweeter facing down because of the height, and it puts the tweeter in line with the front 3 on the left and right side surrounds. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and then the 65 Slims are basically like the T65s, but they're not ported, and they weigh a little less. Frequency response is not as doesn't go as low, about 65 hertz.
Mhm.
But their max SPL is like 121 dB, which is
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Those yeah, they're like yeah, I don't know. I really like them. I can't stop singing the praises of them. And again, like Aperian's not paying me anything. Um, I may end up keeping them as my reference system, just to kind of judge everything off
Mhm.
of, because I think the
Yeah.
value proposition there is pretty great for what you get. But again, like some people are going to
Mhm.
like the aesthetic, others aren't. Um, yeah, which is a personal preference thing. Some people are going to be like, oh, they measure like this, and I was like, I don't know. In my room, they measure great. So, but yeah, Siphonics actually brings up a great point that it's becoming harder and harder to appear unbiased now when people are playing a lot of different roles and crossing lines, etc. Yeah, I mean, I think Michael Youthman made a video recently about that kind of because he's become a dealer with
Yeah.
Matt from Obsessed Garage, so like the Obsessed Home Theater or something like that. So it
Mhm.
is it can be difficult to appear and remain biased when you're kind of doing something like that. I know Michael, and I do know that like he he wears his heart on his sleeve when it comes to this stuff, um
Mhm.
but yeah, I actually just to go back real quick, Rich, I actually love the aesthetics of it with the speaker or the grills off. I just think they look beastly. I like it a lot, but they do look nice with grills on. And the grills don't actually do anything. Um, to the measurements, to the frequency response, which surprised me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, anyway, I think we're getting we're 15 minutes in now. We haven't even talked about what we're here to talk about. But no, I love that you guys are commenting and stuff. And by the way, thank you everyone for joining so far. We're
Yeah.
just getting started here. Joel has already said what's up. Medieval is here. Siphonics is here. Um, Rich, I know we've already talked to you a little bit. Kevin is here. Ty is here. Um, Kevin, thank you so much. Kevin sent me an email making sure that we were good before the hurricane.
Aw,
So I really
thanks,
appreciate that,
Kevin.
Kevin. I did email you back, so I didn't forget this time. Yeah, it was a lot of like prep work trying to get everything done, and um, oh, Oprah Winfrey is here. You get a car, and sorry,
Yay.
every time, every time. But yeah, so yeah, thankfully everything was good there. What about you? Like, I know you've been a little busy yourself, Elon.
Yeah. Um, my brother-in-law was here a couple days ago, raided this office that you see behind me. That's why there's like boxes that aren't normally in the background, Um, but also I'm back in the office because um, it's finally starting to get cooler. It's still not very cool, but it is cooler
Yeah.
here in Northern California. So I'm actually able to be in here without this really obnoxiously loud AC unit going. Because during the summer, yeah, no, I just can't. I can't be in here without the AC going constantly. So I'm glad to be back in here. But my brother-in-law lives in San Francisco, and he finally bought. He's been looking for at least a year, I think. But you wouldn't think it, but it's really hard to buy a home in San Francisco, even though the prices are so astronomical.
Oh, I
Doesn't
bet.
matter. There are still so many filthy rich people that live there that overbid on every house. So like he'll put in a bid on a house, like a reasonable bid, and everybody else is like way over that bid. And it's like, all right,
Yeah.
well, I can't compete with that.
Yeah.
So finally he got a place. He and his wife, they're so excited. We're so excited for him. But yeah, he's got a lot of stuff in this office that he was just keeping here for storage since, this is his property. This is his house, basically. But he is planning on renting it starting, January 2025, or at least he hopes to. So I'm still in the process of trying to organize things and also really find a new spot that I can take my theater that I built and set up shop somewhere else. So I'm looking for a little office space to rent.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I'm not gonna be able to transfer my theater to my house because there's just no room, and my wife just wouldn't approve unless we won the lottery and somehow we're able to build like an actual building on our
Yeah.
property. So
Little man shed.
yeah,
Little
exactly.
you could get one of those
So
Sears houses that used to be able to buy. Remember back in the day, you just buy
oh
a house
right.
from Sears and they deliver all the materials and everything to you. That'd be
Mhm.
crazy.
Apparently you can buy some like houses on Amazon for like 20 grand that like open up. It's like it comes in like a container basically, but then it expands and the walls open up and then supports go here and there, and then it's like this little house. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I saw that. I wonder how secure it would be, and I
I know.
guarantee you the acoustics will be dog shit. That would be so
Yeah,
bad. He was like, "What
pretty
is
much.
this in here?" But yeah, I saw that on some, one of these. It was like one of these Facebook videos that you see of these basic.
Yeah.
We'll just call them
Check
bro.
this out.
We'll call them bros, right? It's a bunch of
Right.
young
Right.
guys with way too much money, um,
Uh-huh.
doing a bunch of just stupid stuff, and I'm like, I can't believe people watch this as I'm sitting here watching it, you know. So I'm like adding to the issue by giving them a view, but their analytics or watch time are going to go up. Oprah Winfrey just said, buy a shipping container. Why not?
Yeah, that's
Um,
becoming popular nowadays.
Heck yeah.
Turn it into a little setup.
Andrew is here.
Yes.
Welcome, Andrew. Oh, let me say hi to Random Help. He is here. I said hi in the comments, but I wanted to highlight him in the video because we can. Because we
Random
can.
help.
Random Help. Random. But so yeah, that's man, more power to you. I hope you can figure out something. Um
Yeah, because
it's
I'm hoping. I mean, it's in the process. The people at Massimo say they are going to send me an AV10 processor, their flagship, hopefully soon. So I need to find a place that I can actually set up shop and start using that thing and banging out videos that I've been wanting to bang out for a very long time because I haven't had a processor that can handle that many channels.
yeah.
So
I think you need 30 channels. 30.
yeah.
Um so Andrew, we are actually just now getting into this. Um talking about back in the day, audio or video, just experiences. That's really what
Yeah.
it's all about. You know, there is a Willie even posted something here. It says back in the day, well, for a weird and uninteresting reason, I've been looking to pick up a copy of Jaws on VHS. Some eBay prices are insane, like $1,500. Whoa,
Whoa.
whoa. Um,
Wow.
that's crazy.
I can see VHS, they are making a comeback,
They are.
but, like, I I can only see them as just a yes, it's nostalgia, but also just like a display piece
Yeah.
because I really can't see the value in actually having VCRs come back because the quality just degrades over time the more you watch it because it's tape,
Yep.
and yeah, it just doesn't seem like it's up to snuff nowadays because, back in the day, yeah, like a hi-fi VCR with 3 heads was the coolest thing, but yeah, that technology is, I don't know. Like, I get how DVD became the natural progression after VHS because then you're not dealing with something that will degrade over time. It's a laser.
Right.
If the laser goes out, then I don't know, either get it repaired or buy a new DVD player. So, I get it. But yeah, I can see how, like, if you have, like, this really cool display or bookshelf just full of these VHSs, that would be pretty cool. Just, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
look at my collection." But to actually sit down and watch it, I don't know. I'm not convinced, but I'm not saying I can't be convinced in the future. I'm open to it.
I mean, yeah, I'm with you. Like it for me, it's like you said, it's pure nostalgia. Like that's if I'm gonna watch it, right? If I'm gonna watch it,
Mm.
I'm not watching it for any type of good audio or video quality. That's for sure. Um, but like the actual display, I think is cool. Like the also like the when Disney used to have the big ass like clamshell, white
Oh, yeah.
clamshell things, like that was a like they I loved it and I hated it. Same with like DVDs that have like different size cases or different color cases. Drove my OCD crazy because it just wouldn't fit like well in my media cabinet that I had,
Right.
you know? And so I'm like, why are they cut like why is the Hulk have a green case or whatever? I mean, I understood why I
Right.
did, but I was just like, this is
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it's like nostalgia. I have a couple friends who are like really they almost want to compare it to vinyl, which I'm like, no, like, you know, you can't compare it to vinyl because I've heard vinyl. There's a person that's semi local to me. He's friends with Gene. Della Sala from Audioholics. His name is Xavier. They call him Captain Analog because he sets up turntables, calibrates turntables. Um, really, really is into that kind of hi-fi scene. And the vinyl I've heard is insane. Like the quality. Like
Oh, yeah.
you're not gonna you're not gonna say, well, the CD sounds better.
Mhm.
Whereas like with a VHS tape, you're like, a laser disc would look better than this. A laser disc would, you know what I mean? Like a DVD is gonna
Right.
sound so like there's a very distinct difference between vinyl, which is an analog format, and VHS, which is also analog. Whereas like if you take care of vinyl, it can sustain over the years. Whereas if even if you
Yeah.
take the best care of a VHS tape, every time you watch it, every time you put it in a player, you're wearing that tape out a little more. There's no going back from that. That even applies
Yeah.
to somebody mentioned DVHS, um,
Yeah.
which did have degradation issues. Although I don't know if eh, because it was a digital VHS, if it affected the quality or if it just like became an issue. What like I didn't have a DVHS player, so I can't comment
Mhm.
on that. But I would wonder if it's like technically like converting that. I don't know how it worked. Honestly, I need to research it before I comment. Never mind. Uh, um, but yeah, I mean, I had so many moments back in the day. Just from my because we talked about this before. Because I was like, well, what do you want to talk about? Because I'm like, I don't have much car audio experience, other than when
Mhm.
my uncle installed one of those bazooka subs in his. Do you remember those bazooka car subs?
Ooh, yeah, I do. Yeah.
In his 1967 Camaro convertible.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was just like, why? And he cranked the bass just 100. Like that was the. I was like, this doesn't. Um, yeah, yeah. He used to have. My uncle had a really, really like like this obsession with getting old cars.
Mhm.
Um, even though he couldn't afford them. But he actually had a Buick Skylark that was screen used in the movie Great Expectations. It was driven by Ethan Hawke, so that was pretty cool.
Ah.
Ethan Hawke,
Ooh.
yeah, Ethan Hawke Tua. I think that was
Yeah.
throwback to a couple. Yeah, I just now remembered that. He had like the film. He had the trailer. The guy that he bought it from had the trailer of the movie in a film canister. And I don't know how he got it, but I thought it was like the actual 35 millimeter trailer. I was like,
Oh
"That's
my
cool."
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of that, like getting my first home theater or, seeing Jurassic Park. I remember getting my first home theater and putting on Twister
Mhm.
and being like, "Oh yeah." I had no idea about audio color. I was like 15 years old. The like
Yeah.
Kenwood
Yeah.
home theater in a box, I'm like, "But this sounds
Right.
awesome." The whole
Yeah.
house was rumbling. It was like a little 8-inch subwoofer. Um,
Right.
and I think, what's funny is I think about that quite often and how like we as technology, and this happens with everything. It's not just home theater. As technology it progresses, right? Like things become more involved almost. Like I look at that back in the day. I didn't know about what an SPL was. I didn't know like,
Right.
I thought you just put the subwoofer at like, 75% or whatever and you were good. But it was like awesome that first experience. And occasionally I'll have experiences like that now, but they're very, I don't want to say few and far between, but like having more knowledge about it, I think it's kind of it doesn't diminish the experience, but
Mhm.
you become more critical of it. Like you're critiquing
Yeah.
things more instead of just like trying to enjoy them. And
Right.
that comes like with the territory when you're reviewing stuff, right? Like you have to critique it. That's your whole point. Like that's the whole point of
Yeah.
saying, I like this, but this could be better. They need to work on this, but they really nailed this, that kind of thing. Sometimes you're just like, yeah, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. Unfortunately, that
Yeah.
happens sometimes. But yeah, what was your like? Do you have like a defining like experience from your youth or Ute if you're a My Cousin Vinny fan. Um, what's a Ute?
Two Utes.
Yeah, the two Utes, the Sack Suds. But yeah, do you have like a defining moment like that you can remember vividly from back in the day that really kind of either like catapulted your love for like audio or like filmmaking? I think we've talked about this before, but I think it bears mentioning again.
Um, I mean, I honestly, it was well, just audio in general, and just knowing that I was weird, knowing that I had a passion for audio was yeah, I think I did mention this before sometime, but the DTS intro before Jurassic Park, in the theater, sitting with my family and seeing that CD and then like the text like flying through the
Yeah,
screen and then landing on the CD and DTS experience and then it explodes. Like, yeah, from that moment I was like, yeah, there's something to this that I know that I'm really into that.
yeah,
Not a lot of other people are around me. Like, that was kind of a defining moment where I'm like, "Yeah, I'm kinda weird." That's 'cause everybody's there to see Jurassic Park, and I was very excited for Jurassic Park, of course, but it just amplified it even more where I'm like, "Ooh, I know this is gonna be a good audio experience just from that intro."
yeah. I love that
Um,
intro.
yeah. But it's as far as, like, filmmaking is concerned, we were doing my friends and I, being the film guys in high school that we were known for, um, we were doing some sort of English project or something senior year of high school, and yeah, because it was in between takes, we were just, like, setting up lighting and setting up the camera in a different position. And just the banter that was going on between everybody, and everybody was just in good spirits. Everybody was just really wanted to make it happen.
Yeah,
And, like coming up with ideas as well, shooting ideas off of each other. Well, maybe we should do this instead. And like just the whole process, I just kind of stood back and tried to like get out of my own body and just see it for what it was, and, like, it just gave me such joy. I'm like, "I just love this process. I love entertaining people. I just want to be able to do this."
yeah,
And yeah, it stuck with me. That was definitely a defining moment in knowing that I wanted to be creative as a career. Um, because yeah, being creative just gives me such feels,
yeah.
It's
And it runs the
it's
gamut too from everything. I think people don't understand that maybe aren't in the creative field or don't do anything like do anything. I don't want to say don't do anything creative. I mean, there's millions of different ways you can be creative.
yeah.
My brother-in-law is a an artist. He draws and he's really freaking talented. And I was talking to him about like his creative process, and I was like, do you ever just get to a part in a project where you just like man, this fucking sucks. Like I don't like this is not turning out good. And it's like pretty much every single time. And
Yeah.
he's told me it's like there's been numerous times where he's worked on something for like 4 or 5 hours and just completely scrapped it because he wasn't happy with it and started over. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I feel you, man. And I think
Yeah.
like everybody has that kind of thing in their creative process where they just are not liking it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I remember vividly, I've talked about it before, watching Jurassic Park in the theater. And that was the thing that got me into a multitude of things. Home
Mhm.
theater. I was like, how can I replicate what I heard in the theater at home? Right. Or
Yeah.
how can I make it better? Um, and also I want to do things like I want to make movies because that like I want to do that for a
Mhm.
career. I want to be creative, and I was already like making little short films and stuff. But yeah, when I saw that when I was 10, I was like, okay, like I want to do something with this, and I'm still working towards that. Like I would love to do. We have this platform now that you guys are watching on called YouTube that you can pretty much post anything you want,
Mhm.
short film, whatnot. And that's I wouldn't probably post it on my this channel, but like you know my own channel or something and link over to it. But yeah, I would love to make a film, to start working on short films again because I've made a few over the years, but nothing recently. But yeah, that again, like going back to what we're talking about, there was something about that experience when I was 10 years old seeing Jurassic Park in the theater, and I wasn't
Mhm.
aware of, oh yeah, the projector might be slightly out of focus, or like, the projector was dim, or like the audio wasn't loud enough or something. I don't remember any of that. I just remember being like, could not
Yeah.
believe what I was seeing and hearing, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, there's so many like back in the day moments that I have where, like somebody mentioned T2 here, the Van Damage.
Yeah.
Once I he heard that initial, I think he's talking about the foot stomp right in the beginning of the where the
Right. Where
it
the
steps on the
yeah,
skull, and
the robot steps on the skull, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, there's something about hearing that for the first time on DVD.
Mhm.
Um, there was actually two. There was that, and then for me, um, in the movie Stargate, when they first step into the event horizon and go through the wormhole, the it was the first time when I had surround sound, like you heard it like whizzing past you. Um,
Yeah.
and what's funny is like my wife and I, like she's a massive Stargate fan. Not so much the movie, but the show. And I, having watched the entire series of SG1 and Atlantis now, I could see why
Mhm.
the show is so much better than the movie. Um, the movie feels,
What?
yeah, yeah, and then you realize how big of an asshole Roland Emmerich is because he's responsible for the movie. Um,
Yeah.
that he's like he couldn't handle the success of SG1, I guess. But yeah, they use that a lot to I don't even know if they've just reused it, but yeah, every time it would come up, I'm like, it would just bring me back to that moment of them going through the wormhole. And it kind of makes me want to watch the movie because I'm like, I remember watching the movie, I'm like, I don't remember any of these characters. Like Jack O'Neill, like what Kowalski? What's going on? I
Yeah.
just remember French Stewart being in it in the movie. And all I could like I
Oh,
was
wow.
watching Third Rock from the Sun at the time, and all I could think of is his character in Third Rock from the Sun,
Right.
which I'm like, this is fitting. You're going to an alien
He's
planet, but he
squinting
is
the
an
whole
alien.
time.
Yeah, I just yeah, there you go. There you go. That was a great French Stewart visual impression. Um, but yeah, yeah, I mean, there's so many moments. Like I remember watching Saving Private Ryan on DVD, on DTS
Mhm.
DVD. That was yeah, I was like, I don't. It's not a movie that I can just put on. It's a really heavy movie. Um,
Sure.
I think I was like, I told my wife, I was like, yeah, we should watch that, and she's like, no. I was like, can we just watch the opening scene? You can kind of see, and we did, and she was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. And you know what? I was good. I was
Yeah.
like, I really don't want to watch the rest of this because it's just such a heavy movie. It's kind of like watching Schindler's List. Um,
Yeah.
it's a hard watch, but it's a great cinematic like masterpiece. But it's just what I found is a lot of movies kind of can be like that, where you're like,
Mhm.
I love that movie, but I never want to watch it again.
Yep.
That's weird.
Requiem for a Dream. I have seen it once.
That's
It's
enough.
brilliant, and that's all I need to see it. I don't need to
That's it.
see it again.
That's all I need. I
Yeah,
Yeah.
performances were out of this world. It was so real, so well done. But yeah, one is enough.
One is enough. And then there are cinematic masterpieces from the 70s that I watch all the time, like The Toy. I love Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
You ever seen the toy, Elon?
I have not.
No? So he's a well, I don't wanna spoil it, just watch it. It's got
Yeah.
it's got, Richard Pryor, Jackie Gleason, and, that kid from Home Alone. No, that kid from, Christmas Story. Another Christmas movie. The kid that gets his, tongue stuck to a pole.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
Scott
speaking of
Sw
Jurassic Park again, like for our generation, Jurassic Park was like Star Wars for Generation X.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
because 1977, anyone who was around that age, teenager to 20 something, 30 something, was blown away by Star
mhm.
Wars.
Well, yeah,
And it fueled people and made people want to make movies. I know for a
yeah.
fact that James Cameron started making movies because he watched Star Wars.
J.J.
He saw it in the
Abrams.
theater. Yeah, and it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it fuels imaginations beyond what they thought they could achieve, and they're like, "Oh, man, well, if this can happen now, then the thing that I've been wanting to do forever, I think I can pull it off now."
Yeah,
And, like, it's the same thing with our generation and Jurassic Park, like, it really made me want to get into how did they do that, and how can they make something sound so good, and why do I love sound this
yeah,
much?
yeah.
And, yeah, just kind of a domino effect after that.
Well, I know Jordan Peele has cited Spielberg as one of his major inspirations for,
Mhm.
his d basically finding his voice. Because like, if you watch a Jordan Peele
Yeah.
movie, it's not like you're watching it you know it's a Jordan Peele movie, right? Like, you're not
Mhm.
gonna mistake it for anybody else's movie. Um,
Yeah.
that's both good or bad. Um, some people are gonna like it, some people aren't. Um, but yeah, there's like, it I think there's a lot of I mean, I'm sure there's millions of moments, uh, where people have seen something, heard something, and said, "I wanna do that for a living," and they go do it. They wanna make movies, like, or they wanna be a sound engineer, like, or sound designer. I always say a great watch is
Mhm.
the Light and Magic documentary on Disney Plus, if you're into
Yeah.
kind of the behind the scenes stuff. Actually, had somebody say one time to me that they don't like watching that stuff because it just ruins the magic of movies, and I was like, "Okay." I mean, so some people have to know about that magic to make it. It's like, but it's
Mhm.
like there's a lot of people involved that you don't maybe realize, and you know, but yeah, I think like, oh man, yeah, I should have prepared notes because I have a lot of things knocking around in my brain right now that I'm like, which one do I talk about? Um,
Well, I guess just as an aside, let me talk about the whole kind of idea that spawned this topic. Um, but just to preface everybody who's listening, um, I want to preface that I'm not like Aaron's audio corner, who literally has a job in the car audio industry. Um, I want to talk about car audio just for a second, just as a lay person. Um, because we recently purchased a new Mazda. We've been in Mazdas for like over 14 years now. We just love Mazdas. It just seems like you get the most bang for your buck, um, for would what is standard compared to other car companies that kind of nickel and dime you. Like, well, if you want that, you're gonna have to pay extra for it. But you know, the previous car that we had, the previous Mazda that we had was a sedan, um, and we didn't get like the Bose sound system. We just had the standard audio kit in this particular car. And it was a 2016 model, and now we just got an updated, a 2024 model. Um, and the 2016 model, again, standard audio package, had it still sounded pretty darn good. Like, I didn't feel like I needed to spend the extra money for the Bose sound system even back in 2016 because, I don't know, just me personally, I'm really not that kind of person who's going to, you know, spend a lot of money and get the really nice sound system in my car because I guess I just don't spend enough time in the car to justify spending extra for this premium sound system.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, it's just me. I just can't justify that.
Right.
So we're looking at all the different models and different trims of the Mazda we're thinking of getting, and we go for the CX-30 because we wanted something smaller, not as much of a car payment as before, that kind of thing. So, I mean, the car is great. It's gonna do us very well, especially here in Northern California. Sometimes it snows up here, so it's gonna be better than the sedan that we had before.
Right.
But the audio system was, again, your standard package. Nothing flashy. The trim above it had the nice Bose sound system. But since we got the standard one, I was like, "Whatever, standard is fine with me. Um, let's just get it." Because during silly me, we weren't really listening to the radio or anything during the test drive because I just didn't think anything of it. But as soon as we drive off, oh my god. Um, it sounded so tinny. It just sounded like it sounded more like I was just hearing the reflections of the audio as opposed to direct sound coming from the speakers. And and then I'm starting to look around and I notice these teeny tiny little speakers in the door. And then lower down is like the mid-range woofer. And so like I'm noticing that it's just a lot smaller. And so like it seems like with sound bars being so popular nowadays because a lot of people just need something better than their TV speakers. I get it. But people are relying more on sound bars because of the ease of setup.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about speaker wire, etc. So people are going for sound bars, even though the sound quality isn't that great compared to, actual speakers, tower speakers, bookshelf speakers connected to an AVR. Say what you want about whatever soundbar system you adore, but they're still just not up to snuff with actual speakers because the form factor, you're just not going to get that big of a sound from a
Right.
3-inch driver, no matter what you do. So it seems like that mindset has transferred to the car audio industry because it literally sounds like in my car now, this 2024 car, that I've downgraded to a soundbar system.
Oh,
Because in the 2016 model, man, the mid-range was great, the treble was great. It
yeah.
didn't have, like, subwoofers or anything, but there was still some bass,
Well,
some
oomph, yeah.
weight yeah, a little bit of oomph to the low end. There is 0, and I mean 0 low end in my new car. None whatsoever. So it's just mid-range and these tiny little tweeters.
Wow.
So it's just astounding that this is what we've come to, within 8, 10 years is everything has just become smaller. Everything has just become I'm sure it's cheaper to
Yeah.
put
They
these
probably want
particular speakers in the
try
car.
to sell you on the more premium audio package, right?
Exactly. It's like, It's like no longer can I get a decent audio experience unless I go for the more expensive package, and that's sad.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just have to deal with the fact that, as we've driven it over the past few weeks, now that we've had this car, I can tell that it's gotten a little bit better. I think the system as a whole just needed to have some breaking in to do. There's probably some sort of break-in period,
Yeah.
and maybe it's just gotten a little bit better because of that. I don't know. But again, it's still just not as good as
Yeah.
our 2016 car, and it's pretty sad.
I
I
would
mean,
imagine
it's
if you took the tweeter out, like the motor structure on that thing would probably be like a pin, like it'd be so tiny, like it can't handle any like yeah. And
yeah.
Kevin, I just want to say real quick, thank you so much, Kevin, for the super chat. We really
Aw,
appreciate it.
yeah, thanks,
You didn't
Kevin.
have to do that, but we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I also gave me a chuckle here that Elon, good luck convincing most folks that TV speakers or soundbars suck. However, maybe a soundbar on the dash of a car is coming. Dude, if you strap the Nakamichi Dragon, Nakamichi, whatever, put that on the dash. I'm sure it's not great, with sun damage, but holy crap. That yeah, you had mentioned that to me and I was like, I'm not sure. I don't really have much car audio experience. For me it like you, it's like I don't spend a ton of time in the car and normally I just
Yeah.
want some tunes to kind of get me, by. It's kind of like
Mhm.
exercising. I don't need like extreme fidelity when I'm like working out or exercising. Obviously, I work out all the time, but no, when I do work out and exercise, I'm like I want something that sounds okay, and I can hear
Yeah.
it. Like I really like a little more bass. I'm not really concerned
Mhm.
about having a hi-fi detailed experience. I just want something that
Mhm.
will kind of, like because I'm also not listening for hours and hours. I'm normally like it's an hour long, maybe
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
cardio and strength training. It's like if I do both together. And yeah, but like, we have a Kia Soul. It's not the speakers are not the greatest, but they're
Mhm.
serviceable. Like they actually still surprise me in how they sound. But it's a 2016, so it's not
Yeah.
newer. And I do, you saying that makes me wonder. And like this one isn't the high end package. It doesn't have like I think some of the Kia Souls you can have uh the subwoofer put in. There's like literally a space like in the middle of the front. It's a odd place for a speaker or something, but like there's like a round like hole or around like a it's like a
Dome?
plastic piece that yeah you could but you like take it out and then like some of them have speakers like in there like I think it's a sub
Oh.
and then there's like places in the rear, like in the trunk area for subs, like on each side. But I'm
Mm.
like, having one right up front is kind of odd. Like, just, I don't know what, and I've seen them with like speaker grills and there's a sub in there. I don't know. I think it's maybe like an 8 inch, it's not really a big sub or anything,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, like, I'm still like, oh, okay, it's fine. I'm not, you know, just again, just need a little audio. I wish it got a little louder for like phone calls. If I'm,
Right?
like hands free or whatnot. But um, yeah, I don't spend as much time in the car as I used to. I don't travel as much as I used to. Um, so it's not
Yeah.
really a big thing. But yeah, it's crazy. Roof pizza. My high sense is supposed to have excellent sound, but it's terrible. If you're talking about a TV, I have the U7H, and the sound is I there's a review on my channel for it, and I was like the speakers are pretty bad, like
Yeah.
they're pretty awful. Um,
That's called marketing. They just wanna sell you a product.
yeah, yep. thanks for stopping by, Kevin, and thank you again for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Go kill some. Oh God, I can't
Covenant.
even. It's been so yeah. It's a Halo thing.
uh,
Elites and
Yeah.
the grunts and stuff.
Oh,
You know.
yeah. Right.
Yeah, I was thinking of the flood. That was like Halo 3, Halo 2 or 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're like
I
the big
hated
kind
the flood.
of. Yeah, they're the little guys that like would scurry around and.
Yeah,
I
exactly. So tiny.
feel a sneeze coming on.
Achoo, achoo. Um,
Thank God for the
but
mute.
it's so 'cause I the reason I wanted to kinda bring up just nostalgia and back in the day and stuff, because 'cause I'm trying to think back, like, even growing up in the '90s, like, I don't know if this is true in Florida or was true in Florida, or if it was just a '90s thing, or if it was just a Central California thing where I grew up, but, like, in the '90s, junior high and high school, it was such a huge thing to put some ridiculous sound system in your car, gigantic subwoofers,
Mhm.
the kind where you can just hear them from blocks away coming. And you're like, oh man, because we would hear that constantly around the city I lived in. And I remember going to just like visiting a friend out of state or something, and I just didn't hear that. Like, it just wasn't a thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's just something about where I grew up geographically where spending money on that kind of thing was just so popular, and I don't know why. Because I mean, looking back on it now, I was enticed by it. If I ever got in some friend's car that actually had a really nice system, it was a cool experience, but, at the same time, I was like, "Man, I'm glad I didn't do that because I definitely would have ruined my hearing to some degree,
What?
having subwoofers blasting all the
Yeah.
time, not very far away from me, rattling the chassis of my car." And, but even then, like, also just thinking back, like, just listening to the radio and stuff, I mean, because I was already on the path of being an audio nerd. So I already knew, like, I didn't know a lot of the terminology, but I already knew in my
Yeah.
head what sounded good and bad. And just, yeah, listening to the radio, listening to CDs. My buddy Jack had this 6 CD changer in the trunk of his car, so if you ever if we ever had it on random, every time it would end a song, you would hear as it was changing the CD, and then it would play the next song. So yeah, like that kind of thing. Like, it's I enjoy those times, and I actually do kind of enjoy the fact that everything is more conveniently available. Um, but at the same time, like, listening to CDs back then, they sounded great because we
Yeah.
had, again, we didn't have like these ridiculous sound systems, or like we didn't change out and spend thousands of dollars to change out the speakers and put in tons of subwoofers and stuff. It was just normally stock audio systems, but CDs sounded great. The radio sounded great. So like it's kind of disappointing that we've come to this age where every car company is trying, well, I don't know about every, but it most likely, I bet if you were to get a 2024 Kia Soul, that it's probably gonna have tiny little speakers
Yeah.
in there because everybody's gotta cut corners somehow,
Yep. Yep.
and it's just become the norm, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Speaking of back in the day, again, my uncle had I don't remember what brand name it was. But he had some speakers and they had like one of the dual cassette players, with the physical graphic EQ on it. And
Oh, yeah.
for those in that are watching, that this should bring up memories depending on how old you are. It's either good memories or bad memories. But come on, that EQ right there,
Wow.
right?
Look at
That
that.
that EQ curve that everybody used. We
Uh-huh.
scoop the mids, right?
Yep.
Sometimes we add a little more, like they got a bass boost going on down here, got a little treble boost. This was
Yep.
like this is what I would do in every, like, you probably can't even see my, oh yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell if you see my mouse cursor. This is something I would do to his radio every single time, and it bothered him so much, but I kept doing it because I knew it bothered him. But yeah, I remember doing this on the little knobs there. Um
Yeah.
and or the little faders, and not knowing really what I loved about this though is it was real time, right? So if you boosted a frequency or cut a frequency, you could hear it like
Yeah.
going through the speakers. We don't get that a lot now. With all, I mean, we do have that to a certain degree, but like when we're like if you're using the graphic EQ on like a Denon and Marantz, you
Mhm.
can hear this in real time changing.
Mhm.
But if you're doing stuff with like Odyssey, it's a little, obviously things are way more advanced now than they were back then.
Yeah.
We have more tools at our disposal. I may also be a tool, but such a stupid thing.
I
But
liked Tool.
yeah, I
No,
mean Danny Carey
I
on
do.
drums. Come on. Uh their bass line is so good. But was it Justin somebody? What's his name? Anyway, I used to know band member names all the time when I was younger.
Yeah.
Now it's just like the more home theater knowledge comes in this way, and then all the band knowledge goes out. But
Dang it.
no, like I didn't know what I was doing, right? Like I was just like, let me
Mhm.
bring this up. Well, what's this? Oh, okay, no, the cymbals sound more like crisp here. If I go too far, they're gonna like start sounding like really bad.
Yeah.
It was just cool to kind of have that feedback that you get immediately. And obviously working in any type of like audio production, you get that kind of immediate feedback when you throw an EQ on a track and you like, okay, what
Mhm.
happens if I do this? um but like it was just cool to like be, a young kid bringing over my, tapes that I had. It's like, Master of Puppets, or um some I mean, I grew up in the 80s. I was a metalhead, so but it was like ran the gamut from like that to like, Motley Crue and Poison, like the glam bands of, back in the day.
Mhm.
Then,
Mhm.
got into grunge a little bit. So, but it was cool to bring music over and see how the EQ takes to like, oh, what does this do? And what does that do? Um, I was all about like like experimenting that with that. And we were kind of lost in, like, that's kind of lost today with a lot of
Mhm.
stuff. Um, you know,
There's
I
no,
I am
like, manual. You can't manually adjust anything anyway. It's all just everything is computers and everything you have to do in
yep,
a menu system.
yep,
'Cause
yep.
I remember, there was a guy that was some random guy I was, like, giving a ride to school one day, that I had never given a ride to before, but I don't know, he reached out and for whatever reason, he needed a ride that day, and I had never given him a ride before and since that day. But this
Never
but,
again.
like, um, as we're going, we're listening. I have the Crystal Method, a Crystal
Hmm.
Method CD in my CD player, and there was this, song that came on that had, like, a really energetic drop,
Yeah.
build up, build up, build up, drop, and, uh, in the again, this is just a stock stereo system in this car that I was driving, but on the stereo system, there was a graphic EQ just with three little things you could adjust, just bass, mids, and treble.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was it. But you could, it was set to 0, but you could lower it or increase it. And I remember as I was driving him to school, that buildup was happening and the drop happened. And right as the drop happened, he reached over and he took those EQ took that graphic EQ and all 3 of them bass, mid, and treble. He whoop, put all the way to the top. I was like, even then, like, I didn't exactly know all the ins and outs of audio, but even
Yeah.
then, I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like,
Who are
that's gonna
you?
make
Like,
it sound that's gonna make it sound terrible.
yeah.
So, like, I did he did that, and then I just kinda slowly go, "Ha, ha, 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 ha," and then just kinda put it back down
Yeah.
to 0. It's like, "Ha ha, don't ever do that again, please."
And then
But
you
it
kicked him
was
out of the car as it was moving.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a lever that could open the passenger
Oh.
door and just kick
Oh,
him.
I thought it just, like, shot him out of the roof.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, just think about it for a second. I would support that, yes. Um, oh,
Take
yeah,
2.
yeah. Right? Yeah, there's just, like, a something about that, like, adjusting those faders, I just have this I don't know if it was just, like, a tactile thing, um, maybe some form of ADHD or sensory.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, I mean, I definitely have OCD and ADHD and all that stuff. Um, Not as severe as some other people, but I definitely have it. But yeah, I think like uh, now with technology, it's so great what we have, with Roomy Q Wizard, like free stuff, right? It's free. Requires you to learn it, but it's still free.
Yeah.
Um, it's like, oh, you buy like a cheap microphone and like you're like you can tell like what's going on in your room. Like what? Like that's 10, 15 years ago. Like what? No, like, but I think then there becomes a reliance on that too much where, and we've talked about this before. You can look at measurements all day long, but how's it going to sound in your room?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe it's not the best measuring speaker ever, but what if it sounds great? Are you going to,
Yeah.
but I know some people have trouble differentiating between like, oh, it measures poorly. I can't like the sound or whatever for whatever reason they can't unsee or
Mhm.
yeah. But most of
It
the time, like
influences them, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah. So like it's kind of like when I come to you and it's like, hey, dude, like I saw this movie, it was freaking awful. It was the worst movie I've ever seen. And you're like, dude, I haven't seen it. Now I'm gonna go in knowing that you hate it, and I might like be on the lookout for stuff that like is gonna make me hate it. Or it's like might be like, well, I know my taste is polar opposite to you, so I know I'm gonna love it if you hated it, that kind of thing.
Right.
But it's like you go in with that kind of bias, and it's so hard to kind of undo that. It's almost like impossible in many ways to undo it. That's why whenever I'm reviewing something, I don't ever try to look at anything else somebody else has done, you know?
Yeah.
Um, if I have an issue, I might Google the issue, see if other people have had the same issue. Like,
Mhm.
if yeah, I ran into an issue that I know you reviewed something, I might be like, "Hey, did you run into this?" But I don't want to know your opinion on it because I want to form my own.
Mhm,
And in
yeah.
today's like kind of society here, like where everybody has there's so much out there and everybody can post on social media. There's a lot of noise you kind of have to sift through, and like you might inadvertently come across something and be like, oh well, you know, yeah, and it just you might not realize it. We
Mhm.
do it with movies all the time. You'll be anywhere and see like an advertisement for a movie or like a review for a movie, and you're like, oh well, this person hated it. You know,
I mean,
like
well, the whole I've seen articles about how Rotten Tomatoes is, like, ruining everything, because if
yeah,
it doesn't have a good score on Rotten Tomatoes, everybody just takes that as, as gospel, and it's like,
yeah,
"Well, I better not see it then, because Rotten Tomatoes says it's a piece of shit." And it's like,
yeah,
"Well, maybe you like it though. Maybe there's
yeah,
aspects of it that, critics." I at least do appreciate that there is a critic score and an audience score.
yeah,
But even then, I mean, that's just this day and age, it just seems like it can't be that black and white,
yeah.
like oh, it's certified fresh. Oh, it's dog shit. It's like, well,
Yeah. Is it that like
is
can there be no in between,
yeah.
right? But here's the thing. What's gonna get clicks?
Yeah, exactly. Ugh.
It's one or the other, right? Like it's never gonna be like,
Yeah.
this was okay. It's either gonna be like, here's everything wrong with this.
Right.
And at the end of this article, they give the movie like a 7 out of 10. You know, it's like,
Right. Oh, so
what?
it's not that bad.
Right. Yeah. What the hell? We're also in a time like where 7 out of 10s are bad, which I've heard like
I
people say
know.
like, oh, this game is 7 out of 10. I'm not playing that garbage. I'm
Right. It's
like,
like,
if it was
this
a
is
2 out of 10, I could understand, but like a 7, you know, like
yeah.
come on. Like if I give something a 7 out of 10, I'm like, I enjoyed it. It had problems, but I enjoyed it. You know,
Yeah.
it's when I'm getting down below 5. That's when I'm like, yeah, I probably really wouldn't recommend this if unless it's on a sale. Um,
Right.
but Willie actually brought up a really good point that I want to touch on here.
Really?
Willie, um, where graphic equalizer let you ruin your audio in the 80s, the modern video equivalent is the how do you say this word? No, basically he's talking about all the digital picture manipulation settings on modern TVs. There's a lot. Not saying
Yeah.
fiddling with settings is necessarily bad, but it very much can be. So, um, you know, you guys, a lot of you guys in the watching now are kind of show up every week and have watched some of my videos, watched Elon's videos. I'm a very much calibrate once, forget about it.
Mhm.
I don't every movie I watch, I'm not going in and adjusting the subwoofer volume. I might if the dialogue is super low, I might turn on the dialogue enhancer, but that's it. Like I'm not
Yeah.
touching anything. Video, same way. I've ran through Calman, I've calibrated the picture. I don't touch it for movies. Games, sometimes a game will come out that has just a terrible like black level like floor in HDR for whatever reason. It's like super washed out. So like you have to go in and try to fix it. I hate doing it. We shouldn't have to do it, but unfortunately
Yeah.
it's just the reality. I wish we didn't have to do it. I want to just leave it alone. I never want to touch it. And in most games, I'd say like the games that I haven't made videos on about it, I just leave it. Like I don't really touch it. But there have been games where it's just like, yeah, the HDR like it just totally washed out. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
touch anything from movies, music. I really don't like I kind of once I calibrate, it's like that's it. I've kind of you can real like some people love tweaking over and over again. Um, you know, and part of my thing that I do is I do experiment quite a lot with like um you know, calibration and measurements and multi QX and things like that, and
Mhm.
what sounds good, what doesn't. But once I find something that kind of sweet spot, I'm like, that's why I do it. Is like, okay, now I want to give this to you guys and be like, here's what I found. I'm not saying like this is going to be the best for you, but I've done a lot of tests on my end, and here's what I found. So you know, test it out and see what you find. Um, it's just that thing where like you can like Willie says, there are so many things that you could tweak on a TV to
Mhm.
tailor the picture to a certain way, and some people are going to love that. I don't want that. I want the TV
Yeah.
to get out of the way. I want the
Yeah.
picture quality to not change from movie. Like I basically whatever's on the disc or whatever is streaming or whatever I'm playing through my rips, I just want it to be whatever the source is supposed to be. Like I don't, you know, like to kind of tie this into what we're talking about back in the day is like I remember the first time I got like one of those, I think it was the Avia calibration disc. Um
Yeah.
that came with like a little blue filter that you put over your, you know, like when you're like trying to calibrate the color bars on an old tube TV. Um
Mhm.
and like I remember like recommend, you know, setting sharpness to 0. I'm like, what? Like my sharpness at 100, like what the heck? And so like I brought it all the way down. I'm like, oh, it's kind of blurry, but I let it sit for like 3 or 4 days. Like I was watching stuff and then I noticed it's not blurry. I'm actually seeing like what is like the natural like sharpness of the picture without any like artifacts,
Oh,
and
yeah,
a lot like all of the sharpness stuff on TVs like just adds like artifacting when you get higher and higher. Um,
yeah.
from a very far distance, it may not be an issue, but as you get up closer, you're going to start noticing like ringing around edges. I mean, on my OLED, sharpness is at 0. Like I don't, um, because it defaults to 10. And I talked to Jason Dustle, who's a ISF Pro calibrator. So I asked him, I'm like, every LG set I've ever seen, the sharpness in all the picture modes defaults to 10, unless you're on like, you know, the torch mode or vivid or whatever. And he's like,
Yeah.
and I was like, so what's the correct setting? Because I've read things online and I'm like, I've looked at patterns and 0 has 0 like artifacting or ringing on sharpness patterns, and 10 has some. He's like, always 0. Always. He's
Mm.
like, you can bump it up if you don't mind like a little thing, but if you want like, like I would always recommend 0. Unless you really need like a little bit of extra, like you're really far away. And I was like, okay,
Wow.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. So yes,
Wow.
Willie. Yeah. Currently playing Cyberpunk on PS5. The game's HDR settings are very complex and not for the faint of heart. Yes, and
Mhm.
that's actually an issue with a lot of games is and Willie, you know this just by playing other HDR games. Some games have really intuitive HDR settings. Some games have no HDR settings, even though they support HDR. Some games support the system level HDR calibration on PlayStation and Xbox. Some don't. So it's like it's not a very consumer friendly experience currently. There needs to be some sort of standard for games where like, you know, that's what if you have a television that has like HGIG or HGIG, that's kind of the whole point of it is if you set it up in the system and a game supports it, you're going to get a great experience. But the problem is a lot of games don't support it. So like you're left with these settings in the menu that you're like, okay, what should be my max peak brightness? Like I don't like you need to go to like the ratings and find the review where they list the max peak brightness and put that in. Okay. Well, what about my mid-tone? What the hell's a mid-tone curve? Like what like all of these little things that like I may know what they mean, but like not everybody's like God, like I remember just like back in the day, turning on like my Super Nintendo and not caring, like just playing a game, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now
Yeah.
it's like that's why for a little while I like messed around with doing like HDR calibration videos for video games because
Mhm.
they're very popular because everybody wants to get the best experience, but they just want to know how. They can't
Yeah.
get it out of the box. And I think that more developers and publishers of video games need to be aware of how like piss poor some of their HDR implementations are. Um,
Right.
yeah, it's like he's talking about paperwhite settings. So a paperwhite setting is basically my rule of thumb is between 120 and 200. That's you find where you like it because basically
Mhm.
what that's doing is it's like put on my nerd cap now. So basically a paper white setting um in some games like Ubisoft games are like it's supposed to be the what like basically what a piece of white paper looks like.
Mhm.
How is that helping me? Like I don't know. But no, like basically the I don't want to get too far into it, but basically it's kind of like if you set it to let's say 120, it's going to more closely match the midtones of like a regular standard dynamic range. So like not
Mm.
HDR,
Yeah.
but just for the midtones. And so what that means is you're going to have a much wider gamut. It's going to be a little darker, which is why I say 120 to 200. You can even go
Mhm.
to like 250 if you want a little more. But yeah, I've always found like 150 for me on like my LG OLED is perfect most of the time. But again, it depends on the game. But yeah, and then what's funny is even though it says paper white, sometimes it's a completely different setting than what like Assassin's Creed was, right? So there's just this. It's honestly just like a clusterfuck at this point. It's kind of why like one I wanted to keep doing those types of videos, but they take a lot of time and
Mhm.
well, not necessarily as much as like a speaker review, but it's like I was having to buy the games. I wasn't getting
Right.
like review codes or anything. And so it was like it's expensive. And I just like I don't have $100 to drop on every new game or whatever. Sometimes you want to get it before it comes out. Yeah.
What?
I know. I haven't bought a game since like I don't know, a while. Since a while.
Yeah. I mean, paper
Yeah.
white also depends on the color temperature of the light source. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if you have a warm light source on a white piece of paper, it's gonna be a little bit yellow because it's a
Yeah.
warm
Yeah.
light source.
Well, they were
So,
more so like those settings are more talking about the luminosity and not necessarily the color of something. So
yeah,
like it's just saying like how bright is a piece of paper, right? Like so you don't want a piece of paper to be blinding, you want it to be like a piece of paper. So around
yeah,
120 is normally the setting that I would go with. But it can be too dark for some people. But I play in like
yeah,
a room that has very like it's completely light controlled, so I can adjust the backlight on the TV or whatnot. Not the backlight on the TV, but like the bias light behind the TV. Um, but again, see, back in the day, I didn't know about all that stuff. You know,
yeah.
let's turn the lights
I mean,
down and turn on my yeah.
like you said, we just put on Bond
Mm-hmm.
on the Nintendo 64
It's
and
GoldenEye,
just
sir. Get it
try and
right. It's GoldenEye.
sorry, and just try to kill each other. I
Yeah,
mean, it is yeah, why have they made it so complicated? It's
and everybody looked like
interesting.
this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. I saw
Pinched
something
faces.
recently I saw something recently that is like every video game character on the PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64, and it was just somebody wearing like a stocking over their head, and like they were like fake smoking a cigar, and I'm like, that's exactly what it was. Oh
Yeah.
man. Um, yeah, Jason actually brings up a good point too. I wonder how the Samsung phone to Samsung TV calibration or the Apple TV to iPhone calibration performs. I know Apple TV doesn't change the TV settings itself, but does some magic with the box itself. I've tested it
Mm,
on my Apple 4K TV. I think the one channel, the HDTV test, did a test of it, um, and it's kind of like I think it's a step in the right direction, but I think he didn't recommend it because you just have no idea what it's changing and if it's supposed to like if what you're seeing is supposed to be how it like is supposed to look basically like is
yeah.
so it's kind of like yes it may like they may need to do some more work before I think it becomes usable, but I think it is a step in the right direction. um There was, I think I don't remember who it was, but I really would love, because every TV is so different, to have like some type of system, like automated system, like Dirac or Odyssey, for a TV. So every
Oh, yeah.
display comes with like some type of cheap colorimeter, and you use that and plug it up to the TV. That way, you know, you get the best out of it. Is it going to be the same as getting a professional audio calibration or a video calibration? No, but neither is using Odyssey or Dirac like they're plain vanilla versions. If you go in and like tweak everything manually, or you upgrade to multi QX and use REW to do everything yourself, then you get closer and closer to that kind of pro level audio calibration. But out of the
Yeah.
box, like it still could still like get you out of torch mode on your TV and like get you a better experience. Is that feasible? I don't know, but I'd love to kind of see some step in that direction because panel variance between units is so high that
Oh,
you get
yeah.
one And then, well, I mean, you've probably noticed it if you have two TVs of the same make and model side by side, and they were manufactured 1 month apart. One might be slightly darker than the other one, or one might have more color volume than the other one. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, this has suddenly turned into like a boomer talk, I guess. Back in my day, I remember we just had, like Willie said,
Oh,
brightness and contrast. That was it.
yeah, that's all you needed.
We both just turned into Grandpa Simpson. Like that's
Yeah.
back in my day, we just
Ah!
sat around and listened to noises. Um, there's a great if you guys any of you guys are fans of The Simpsons or not at all, look up the THX Simpsons trailer. It's all you. It's amazing. People's like heads are getting blown off and stuff, and the end, Grandpa Simpson just like turn it up. It's so great. It's one of my favorite things. My wife showed me that
Uh,
years ago, and I'd
I
never
know.
seen it.
I'm surprised I haven't.
Yeah. Now what have you been doing with your life?
All the
What have you
wrong
been doing?
things.
I don't
What
know.
have you been doing?
All right, Michael. Michael Caine. Michael Caine.
Michael Guy.
But yeah, I think that there's always like room for like more improvement. We we are at a point where everything is kind of heading towards some type of artificial intelligence system,
Mhm.
or having some type of AI audio optimizer or AI video
Ah,
optimizer. We're
yeah.
going to optimize your optimization by optimizing it again. It's like, uh,
It's because it's easy.
yeah,
It's easy to say because it's just 2 letters. Just like HD, when
yeah,
HD became a thing, everything was HD because it was a huge selling point because people were like, "Well, I'm looking at this thing, but this thing says HD, so I'm gonna go with the one that says HD because
yeah,
I've been led to believe that HD is better." So it's the
yeah,
same thing with AI now. It's like, "Oh, we've got AI this, and our algorithm is super cool and AI powered."
yeah,
It's like, "Oh, well, that must mean it's great. It's machine learning, and oh, yeah, and then it'll be that much easier. I won't have to work as hard because AI is gonna do it for me." It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
slippery slope.
It is. It is. And I think like AI could definitely be like beneficial and useful for certain things, like audio
Yeah.
calibration, for example. Like that it could be used in some capacity to um like look at like the frequency response across a few different positions, and automatically go, "Oh, okay." And we kind of already do that, but not with AI. Like an algorithm was written by a person to
Mhm.
look at specific things, like when you're doing like a Dirac calibration, for instance. But it's like if I wanted to do it manually, okay, like yeah, I could go into REW and take a bunch of different measurements at different positions. I've talked about that on the stream before. And then you could use like something like cross correlation align. But what I
Mhm.
found lately is like for some reason in the latest REW versions, it's not working very well. I have to go in and manually set each speaker. Yeah.
Oh.
Um, it's not hard. It's just a little time consuming. Whereas like
Yeah,
I should be able to
yeah.
just click this button once and have it do it for me, but it's not. So like I have to go in and do it. Um, but
Poopy pants.
right. But then like, okay,
Have
well,
have you written a strongly worded email to them?
no, no. I mean, it's hard to really complain about something free. So it still mostly works. Like for the
Yeah, yeah.
it hasn't worked well for me, and I don't know if it's me. Like it could just be me not using it right. I don't know, but it worked well a few updates ago. I've updated to the most recent version, and it's been broken for me for a few. And I might just need to well no, it wouldn't be that because I reinstalled Windows like just recently and it was still doing it. So I was like, maybe I just need to
Aw.
uninstall the program. No, like I would have not had the program on there if I reinstalled Windows or I didn't actually reinstall Windows. I did a fresh install on a brand new drive, so there's no
Oh.
remnants of anything there. So yeah, and I still like I can't use REW on a Mac. Mac just has a well, you know, Elon, like we've never
Yeah.
had luck getting RumiQ Wizard to work on any Mac. Um the MacBook Air. I was
Okay.
like so excited. I'm
Mm.
like, I love the portability of this thing. It's so light. Plug my UMic in and I'm like, fuck, what's going on? Like I was getting like
What?
very, very weird like
Yeah.
measurements and responses um and I hate how everything has to be through a dongle. Like you gotta get HDMI cable thing. Then it's like I just wanna no. No, I just have my PC in my theater room and I just use that. Um
Yeah.
so but yeah, I think like we didn't have AI back in the day. We
Yeah.
the AI we knew about back in the day was in video games where we had enemies and it was some type of code written for them to have some type of artificial intelligence to be like if you're shooting at them they need to take cover or if very like
Mhm.
rudimentary and basic. Whereas like now, oh my gosh, like Willie mentioned Cyberpunk, and I was like, yeah, some of the NPCs in Cyberpunk are still just stupid. You know, you're like,
Yeah.
dude, I just fired a gun like 5 seconds ago, and you're walking around. You went from going like, what to be like, I wonder if there's ice cream over here. Like, like come on, like. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't need my video games to be like uber realistic. I just want them to be
Yeah.
fun. Like I like
Right.
I like, good graphics. I want to be able to see what I'm doing, but I don't,
Mhm.
I think the main thing is with that stuff is like I want the art style to come through well. And I don't want it to be a blurry mess, which is kind of issues I have with like playing Switch on a big TV. Like it can sometimes some games are pretty blurry because they're lower resolution. Like 720p on a 4K display is not that
Right.
great looking. Um, but the games are still fun. So you kind of slog through it because you're like, well, I'm still enjoying it, even though like it doesn't look that great. Um,
Yeah. Have you, I may have been late to the party, but I recently saw the footage of the new Halo that they're developing with
oh, with
Real
Unreal,
Engine 5
yeah,
or, yeah, with Unreal Engine.
yeah. I mean, it looks
And it
unreal,
looks photorealistic.
yeah, and I think that that's a good and bad thing because Halo's always had like a very unique art style. Like it's never gone for like that super realistic look, right? The last one did like kind of went a little closer to that, like with Halo Infinite. I
Mhm.
mean, I think it looks cool. It, Unreal
I
Engine
mean,
has
I don't mind that, like the aliens and
yeah,
Master Chief and all the soldiers and everything still look like them. That's
yeah,
fine. But like the fact that I'm all on board if the environments look photorealistic, cool.
yeah,
Then that's fine with me.
yeah. I mean, there are like many benefits that like Unreal has, but there are like issues too. I think it looks cool as like a proof of concept, but I wonder because they didn't really deliver much on Halo Infinite, so I don't know if
Yeah.
they're trying to grasp at straws or anything. But I think one of the disingenuous parts of any like Unreal game, Unreal Engine 5 game, is that there so many people that think that like every game developed in Unreal Engine 5 is going to look like that. And that's not the
Yeah.
case. That's just a one time, thing. A lot of people think that
Mhm.
Unreal Engine 5 because we've seen all that it can do are meant to make games look photorealistic when really it's just a more bespoke platform that is more broadly available and easily licensable
Mhm.
to all of these like companies, and it's even like friendly to people that want to get into game development that may not necessarily have like the experience or
Mhm.
a career to back it up. Like I've wanted to make some type of video game for a while. It's always been kind of like an aspiration of mine. And now
Yeah.
more than ever, like we have a platform that we can do it if we want to. And assets that are like freely available. It's crazy. Like um and just making things, kind of more intuitive for the end user. But at the same time, again, I think people look at a lot of these like proof of concept things, or like, Grand Theft Auto 5 in Unreal Engine is insane. It's like, yeah, but like this doesn't need to look like that. Like it doesn't, like I don't need all of my games to look like real life, you know? Um
Yeah.
so but it's definitely cool. Like I'm not saying like don't do it, but like not every game needs to do. It's kind of like it would be like saying, well, I want all my cartoons to be, live action.
I know.
It's kind of
Right.
like I want all my black and white movies to be color. It's like,
Mhm.
I don't want any grain in my movies. James Cameron, coming after you. We all know you shot this on film in the 80s, James. We know it. Doesn't need to look like digital. Um, but yeah, I think that as it progresses, we'll start seeing more and more of games take advantage of the engine in other ways than just that. And we actually saw we've seen a few now. There's a game on the Xbox called Jusant. I think I'm saying that wrong, but it's an Unreal Engine 5 game, and
Mhm.
it does not look realistic. Um,
Hey, there you go.
it has a very unique art style, and it's a very enjoyable game. But yeah, I hope we start seeing people kind of branch out and make games that, because I think when someone reads Halo and Unreal Engine 5, they immediately think of all of those like really high quality, uh, like photorealistic things that people have seen. Yeah, Van Gool.
Mhm.
Van Gool knows what I'm talking about. Now, if we were doing a movie, like a movie, and they did the whole thing in like Unreal, that would make sense, right? Like an animated movie. So
Yeah.
similar to like
Like
how
those, speaking of AI, like those AI clips I've seen recently where it's like, "Oh, Zelda in 1950s style," and, like, it looks picture perfect and
yeah,
like it
no,
just came out of
yeah,
the '50s, and, those are
yeah,
cool. I enjoy watching those, and, if they ever came out with a movie like that, sure, I'd probably go see it because I love Zelda, but yeah, I don't need a Zelda video game that looks realistic for sure.
no, no. And I mean, Unreal Engine 5's big thing. I mean, you may know this, but like, it's basically what's used in the volume for like the
Mhm.
Mandalorian and things like that. So they're
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
realistically, camera like there's a whole system, but like they can dynamically move things around. The
Mhm.
director's like, "Hey, I want a rock over there," and they can do it like pretty much in real time. Um, it's pretty cool. And that photorealism is really great. There was a Matrix demo a couple years ago that was really like kind of groundbreaking for like real time video game graphics. Um,
Mm.
and look it up. You can't get it anymore, unfortunately, but you can get it. You could have downloaded it like on the PS5 and things like that. Um,
Oh.
but it looked really cool. They like recreated like a lot of the stuff from like, or some of the scenes from the first movie in Unreal
Mhm.
Engine 5, and like you couldn't tell the difference sometimes what was the movie and what was Unreal. Like it was
Wow.
that good. Um, but and then like things would happen and like there would be like a little hitching here. So there'd be like a little stutter. I'm like, oh, that's obviously a video game. Like it
Right.
but I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it for what I mean, it still looked pretty dang cool. But again, do you need every game to look like that?
Yeah.
I want all of my realism. I didn't pay for this. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like yeah, just talking about back in the day. I remember playing games to because I loved playing the game. I wanted to play more of the game, and I think we've strayed away from that. Like I remember, dude, I remember playing GoldenEye. Like I remember
Yeah.
getting I got I was part of like some type of Nintendo club, and I remember getting a $20 off coupon.
Ooh.
Yeah, a lot of people don't remember this about Nintendo 64 games. They were like 70 to $80. A lot of them were
Yeah. Yeah.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
So when people are like, $70 for a game today is ridiculous. I'm like, yeah, 20 years ago, I was paying
Uh-huh.
$70 for, I was mowing a shit ton of yards to be able to afford, you know,
Yeah.
GoldenEye or Super Mario 64 or something, and
Mhm.
God forbid I wanted, oh God, Star Fox 64, the first game of the Rumble Pack. Used
Right.
like 8 AAA batteries or some crazy thing like that. Lasted like 2 hours, but it was awesome. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I remember just, oh man, loving it. I'm like, wow, like these graphics are insane. You're never gonna every time I'd see something like, yeah, there's no reason game graphics need to be better than this,
Mhm.
and now I can't even play it. It's so hard to look at.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just like, I'd rather
So
remember
pixelated, so boxy, so jagged. Yeah.
I'd rather remember it than play it.
Yeah.
Because then I'm like, it's like I think was I talking to you, or like I think we were on stream, we were talking about old video games or something, and I was like, yeah, and I played Earthworm Jim recently, and I'm like, this is way more fucking hard than I remember it. Like, how
Oh,
did
yeah.
I it's crazy. Um,
Yeah.
but that art style holds up really well. I still love Earthworm Jim. It's probably one of my
Me
favorite
too.
like platformers for back in the day.
I remember drawing Earthworm Jim
Oh yeah.
so much when that
The
first
little
came out.
circles around the top of his worm head.
Mhm.
Yeah, oh yeah, and the way his 2
That
different shaped
well,
eyes.
like, the booklet that came with the video game had
Mhm.
all the characters and all the bosses and stuff, like, these really elaborate, cool, like, comic book looking pictures inside, and I would, recreate those and
Yeah,
trace those or just copy those and onto a piece of paper and try and match that style. Yeah, I was into it.
man, yeah. I love this. I have the soundtrack, playlist on my Spotify. It's great, man. It holds up so well.
Yeah,
And
it
a lot of
does.
these things, like, we're playing it on, like, Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo, so we're not getting,
Mhm.
CD quality audio. So, like, to
Right.
hear these soundtracks these days, like, God, the Mortal Kombat soundtrack, like, not the movie, but, like, the original game, like, hearing those arcade, like, soundtracks in, like, full high quality, I think they might even be on Tidal. Um,
Oh, wow.
it's crazy, like, it's like, wow, like, this has never sounded this good, and you hear, like, all
Yeah.
the little nuances and stuff, and it just kind of brings you back to what kind of where you were. Like, I remember standing, waiting to play, Mortal Kombat, because I wanted to try this fatality that I saw in Game Pro. At back of the book, they listed the finishing move and how to do it. Like,
Mhm.
I miss that kind of stuff. Where it's like, now you just, oh, I can't get through this boss. Let me go on YouTube and watch a tutorial on how to beat it.
Right.
And you're like watching it, you're like spoiling it for you. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
oh, he does that, and then you're watching the video, and then you're like pausing the game to like go back and, okay, no, he killed me. Okay, no, I can't fucking do this, and then you like just turn it off. You know, so it's like definitely a different time for like gaming, and just like media consumption in general is like so different than what it was 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
we all have this little thing with us, this little phone that a lot of people use as their main media consumption device.
Mhm.
They watch movies, they
Yeah.
watch TV shows, and I'm just like, boggles my mind. You know,
Yeah.
I
It
use
does.
YouTube is about the only thing I watch on my phone unless I'm testing something out. Um,
Mhm.
but I don't watch movies. I don't watch TV shows. Um, Heck,
No, me
most of the
neither.
time, if I'm watching YouTube, I want to grab my iPad because the screen's bigger, and I'm like, it's gonna be better. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, there's so just this could be a 10-hour long live stream, and we'd never be able to cover everything from back in the day that we want to talk about. Um, but it's like a mix of emotions, right? Of having like nostalgia, but
Mhm.
also it's like, oh yeah, I remember having no responsibilities as a kid, but also not being able to go anywhere that I wanted to.
Yeah.
Like so it's like, oh yeah, I didn't have a job, but I also didn't have money. So
Yep.
just and guess what? I have a job now and I still don't have money. So how does it make sense? Tell me how it makes sense.
It doesn't.
Welcome to adulthood. The cats, that was our two cats, man. They just require so much money. They're
Yes.
like, yeah, they got a catnip addiction. It's tough.
Food, litter, treats, toys. Oh,
They don't like. It's weird. You know what? They don't like treats.
oh,
Never met a cat that didn't like treats, but they don't like.
not
We've
even
tried like about
greenies.
five or six different types of treats, and they were just like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm good. You know,
Wow, interesting.
yeah. So hey, they're saving. They're like, we're saving you money.
Just so you know.
So I'm an expert too on some things, but Elin pretty much everything else.
Oh no. Tor.
Oh,
I'm not an expert. I wish. Wish I was an expert.
you're an
But I'm
expert,
not.
non-expert.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right. I love it. I love it.
What do you well, comparing back in the day to nowadays? Um I mean, I don't know, like back in the day I really enjoyed. It just seems like you know, back in the day people of all ages made it a point to go to a movie theater to watch movies because
Yeah.
that's the only place you could see them until they came out on physical media.
Mhm.
So it's, nowadays it just seems like, you know, teenagers, because they want to be social, they're going to the movie theaters just because they want to be away from home. They want to be hanging out with their friends. They want to go out and do something at night on,
Yeah.
Friday or Saturday night, whatever. So they're the ones that are actually going out to the movies. And all the adults are like, I just rather watch it at home. Um, but I mean, it's, is that better? Is it, was it cooler? Was it better back in the day that everybody was forced to go to the movie theater to see the latest, offering from Steven Spielberg or whatever? I don't know. I mean, I really, I do enjoy how my system sounds, and I enjoy the fact that, it rivals a cinema, just because, a cinema has to be so big with so many rows and so many seats that it's going to have a particular sound. But I do also really enjoy the sound of my little personal theater because I just can't get that same experience in a huge
Yeah.
cinema space because it's so much more intimate and personal, and the speakers are right there.
Yep.
I just It's different,
Well,
and
well,
I like
also,
both.
it's like at home, it's a consistent experience. You know pretty much what you're gonna get every single time. Whereas you go
Yeah,
to a
yeah.
theater and you have no idea if the audio is gonna be like too low or too loud. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, you can pay a little more and go with like a premium like cinema experience, like Dolby Cinema or an IMAX thing, and you'll probably get better quality or a more consistent experience. At least that's been my experience with like Dolby Cinema. But dude, it's so expensive, right? Like that's part of the problem. And then you literally have
Yeah.
people sitting down below you on their phones the whole time with their screen
I know,
brightness
man.
on, like max. It's like ridiculous. Um,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Tor actually has a good question. Are you ready for this? You're an expert.
No. Go ahead.
5.1.4 or 7.1.2? That is the real question. I have an
Um,
opinion, but
5.1.4, at least for now, translates better overall when we're dealing with physical media, streaming, because a lot of physical media is going to be 7.1, but a lot of streaming is going to be 5.1 or Atmos. Um, so when you're watching something on streaming that is 5.1, it will translate better to a 5.1.4 system better than a 7.1.2. I personally think you really get a better Atmos experience with 4 high speakers.
yeah,
2 is pretty cool if you can have them directly above you, but that's usually not feasible for a lot of people. They're
yeah,
either gonna have it in the front or, I don't know, maybe possibly behind them, like,
yeah,
depending on how it's set up, if they only have 2 height speakers. But yeah, you get a better experience with 2 up front, 2 in the rear, and, yeah, until you can actually do 7.1.4, which is what a lot of people strive for, 5.1.4 is probably gonna be your better bet because it's just more universally, um, compatible
yeah,
with all types of media that you can watch nowadays.
yeah. I will say with the because I ran 5.1.2 for a long time, because I didn't have a receiver that supported 4 height channels.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
was cool. Like it sounded uh like awesome for the most part. I mean, for what it was, you didn't really have any transitional periods or periods transitional periods. Like you didn't really have any like transitions going from like the front height of the room to the rear or anything like that. It was just like there's stuff up there, cool, but there wasn't really a delineation between what was like kind of supposed to be like up here in front of you to like what was here behind you. It A cat is scratching at the door trying to get in. It's when I upgraded to a receiver that I could do 4 height channels that I immediately noticed when I added I went from top middle, so they were like right above me, to top fronts and top rears. And I noticed immediately that all of the stuff that I'd been watching that just like had some height stuff now had discrete effects like placed up in here, like in the front left, corner top front left or something like that. And that in some movies, like things would pan over me or like from like this position over here to like my top front right to my top, rear left. And like I never got that before. And I was like, well, this is awesome. And then with that same receiver, I ran 5.1.4 for a little bit, and then I got 2 more speakers for my back surround, and I didn't realize what I was missing back there until I added those. And then suddenly it was like I kind of had the holy grail of, like a bubble. Obviously it's like it does take up room, but yeah, that was I think if I had to go like in like step by step, making the or adding the 2 height channels to I had 4 was definitely a huge difference. And then adding my back like surrounds was a big difference. Not as big as like adding the 4 overheads. Um, but it's hard because like every movie's going to be different, and so not every movie's going to be the same, right? And that's what makes it hard. So you can't direct. That's why we like in like the kind of home theater like genre of YouTube tend to use the same content to demo things over and over again, because we're very familiar with how something should sound. And so that's why we watch that race scene from Ready Player One so many times. It's like we know how that should sound. And it's a different experience when you're going from a 5.1.2 to a 5.1.4 and then 7.1.4. It's actually crazy. It's crazy how well it scales. Each
Yeah.
little bit adds a little bit more immersion, you know. And so like yeah, but if you're starting with like 5.1.2 or 7.1.2, I would say the ultimate goal would be to have 4 height channels. Because you're going to get the best of everything, pretty much, in my humble opinion.
Correct. I agree.
Correct. Your opinion is correct.
Let's see.
Oh, thank you, Tor. Thank you.
Michael Walker. Oh, wait. What are the numbers for the Sony Theater Quad? Because my friend has the Sony Quad Theater with an ELAC RS 500. And he says it sounds incredible. What? ELAC RS 500? Is that a subwoofer? Yeah, that's the Varo subwoofers, those new ones. That's interesting. I didn't think the Theater Quad supported any subwoofer you wanted. Because I mean it mine didn't. There wasn't any place to add whatever subwoofer you wanted. You had to use the wireless Sony subwoofers. Oh, he has a mod, Michael
Oh,
says. A mod? You're a mod, Michael.
well, that's actually kind of cool that there is
Yeah,
a
like
mod for. I'm
you
interested.
piqued my curiosity
You
now.
piqued my. I just pronounced the whole word. I'm American.
Pequed.
No, piqued. When I go somewhere, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, is the line over here? No, it's a QUE. Anyway,
QUE.
QUE. Um, oh, Joel
Wow.
says something here I wanted to highlight real quick. I have high back theater seats, blocked sound from surround back speakers too much, uh so instead of 7.1.2, I went 5.1.4. That's always a viable
Yeah.
option. I'm not sure how high your theater seats are in the back. The Valencias are like 48 inches or 46 inches, something like that. Um,
Well, it depends on which model you get too.
True. Yeah, the Valencia Ultimate Luxury Tuscany edition. And so I mounted the back surrounds about a foot higher than the side surrounds. So the tweeters and the drivers and stuff clear the seat or the back of
Yeah.
the seat.
Yeah, I the only reason my setup works in my theater is because I only have one seat.
Hmm. Yeah,
So the surround backs are just outside of that seat and then they're angled pointed at me.
yeah,
Otherwise, yeah, the back is too high.
yeah.
So, yeah.
I I love I love having theater seats, but what I don't like is just only being able to fit two in the room. Because
Yeah.
there's no captain's chair. There's no seat directly in the center of the room, which has always bothered me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm looking. There was a company that sent me an email. I can't remember off the top of my head. I haven't heard back from them. But they wanted to send me a 3-seater like couch, like love seat with no armrest, or like no like armrest that came down. Um,
Mm.
in between. So it's like because I always like tell Trish, my wife, I'm like, hey, it'd be great like when we're watching a scary movie if you like we want to cuddle or something, because she gets scared and
Yeah.
she's like, we end up like holding hands, but like she would like to be able to like do the typical thing where she puts her eyes like in my chest just to like, no, it's too scary, I can't look. I'm like, yeah, rip his head off. Yeah. Well, he's just throwing that sleeping bag against a tree a couple times. It's fine.
uh, Tor also asks, what is your go-to info for home theater information? Um, what
I think he's asking like
Basically,
where we
what
go to get our
websites?
information.
Yeah, what websites do you go to get all your information for home theater?
Oh man,
Um,
there's no one singular site. There's like I go
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
I mean
honestly, I honestly try and follow all the companies that I like, or at least follow as many companies as you can on Instagram because they're gonna tell you about stuff that's just dropped, or maybe they'll tease something that is
yeah,
about to come out. I know Sennheiser has all of a sudden, I mean, it's not really home theater related, but a couple days ago, Sennheiser just teased this new like thing that they're going to come out with in a couple days that is going to revolutionize creators like myself and Brad. So I'm excited to see what it is because I like Sennheiser. I like their stuff. I I get a lot of their stuff for my creation process.
yeah,
So yeah, it's like things like that. Like otherwise I wouldn't know.
yeah.
I would have no idea.
There,
Otherwise, I mean, acoustics, I they're always coming out with the latest news about
yeah,
not only the home theater stuff, but hi-fi stuff as well. So a lot of their stuff, a lot of the hi-fi stuff, I'm like, whatever. I don't really care a lot about the hi-fi stuff, but at the same time, I need to care a little bit since I'm making content for them now.
yeah.
So,
What? You're
um,
biased, bro. You're so biased.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, that's what else? I
I
mean,
mean, I
I've Crutchfield,
yeah.
for just like getting some specs for certain things.
Mhm. I
That's
think
like an
they're
all in
like
one.
there's like that, and then if you want like detailed, because I try to like remove any type of like if I'm researching a product for a potential like, oh, do I want to even like if somebody reached out to me and says, hey, I work for XYZ company, I wanted to send you this. It's like, okay, is this something that even one pertains to my channel? And then two, if it does, can I fit it in the room? That's something that I have to consider. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have a projector screen or anything. Um, and so, but I'll use sites like Audioholics to do research on like if they've covered it, right? Like, because
Yeah.
Gene is
Mhm.
like a kind of has an engineering background and
Right.
will like his bench tests are freaking insane. Like the amount of time and effort he puts into those. It does feel weird because you mentioned like making stuff for acoustics. I worked with Gene for like, you know, the better half of this year, or the
Mhm.
first half of this year, like shooting and editing content for him. And
Yeah.
it's just weird to like be like, I'm not like promoting them or anything. It's just I used them before he and I ever even started working together. So
Mhm.
it's yeah, Audioholics is great. But yeah, just going to the web page. I typically don't read much of the like PR spin bullshit that most things have where it's like
Right.
this uses the new AI analyze blah, 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 you know. I go right to like the
Right.
specifications page to go,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
what's the what you know, what are the ohms, what's the max like we're looking at a speaker, what you know, what's the power rating like, what's the sensitivity,
Mhm.
things like that. You know, what's it made out of, what you know, like how
Yeah.
far you know deep do they go into like okay what's the motor structure on the tweeter and what's the motor structure on this or like basically once you start learning about that stuff and you can understand like oh wow they use that's pretty cool like I that wow like I remember being at Audio Advice Live and looking at Dolly's stuff their
Mhm.
speakers and like they had like kind of a breakdown where it was like half the speaker was missing and you got to see like all the speakers like the innards of it and everything and it was so like cool because like you looked at the tweeter and it was like oh, okay from the outside it's like this small thing and on the inside it's like 2 or 3 times the size of the tweeter so like the motor
Yeah.
structure is massive so like when you start really cranking it the heat dissipation like it has no problem like keeping up like it's not going to overheat it's not going to degrade
Mhm.
but also like it helps with lower volume as well. So like just hanging out with Gene during that time, I learned a lot about that
Yeah.
kind of stuff that you know, I'm not one of those channels that like takes speakers apart and like looks at like the inside of them. I'm more like, well, okay,
Right.
if you bought it, typically you're not gonna do that. So I'm like, what's the user experience like? That's kind of how I always view things. But let's see, we have a few questions here before we wrap things up because we're at our 2 hour limit. I could hear Elon's stomach growling. Um, what's it?
Here's one
Where
from
was it?
Michael. I'll just throw it up real quick.
Oh, what's your opinion on the
What's
new
your
Sonos?
opinion on the new Sonos? The Sonos Ultra.
I
I
don't
don't
have it.
know.
I've not seen it. I've not heard any Sonos. It's really hard to like. I had a
Yeah, it's
friend.
the Ultra Arc.
Oh, it's
So,
expensive. I take it. It's Sonos,
yeah.
so yeah. Um,
I mean, I've just seen whatever video they have playing on their Instagram profile right now. So I haven't really delved or I haven't dove into the specs or anything, so I can't really say much about it. But I can only imagine it's bigger and better. And
it's a grand. It's a grand. So
oh, that's actually not too bad.
we could Google it, but we're not going to. No, I will. Hold on. I want to see it. I want to see what it looks like. I've never been a huge fan of their style. Um, but yeah, let me see if I can bring it up real quick here. Not new Sonus Faber. Gosh.
So does Bobber. While you're bringing that up, Arid asks, "Why do I get audio skipping on YouTube with some content on Apple TV?"
Hmm.
Honestly, I don't know. Um, internet connection? Although, when you say Apple TV, I guess if you just watch it on your phone, I'm guessing it's fine. So it's just only when you watch it through the Apple TV, you get audio skipping when you're watching YouTube content?
Hmm.
Eee. I don't know. Make sure you're up to date with the latest firmware update on the Apple TV. Make sure you're, yeah, maybe everything. If you're going through an AVR, make sure that's up to date. If you're going through your TV, if your Apple TV is connected to your TV, make sure your TV is up to date. I don't know. There could be a lot of factors involved with skipping
Yeah.
audio.
He says he's on 2.5 gig Wi-Fi.
Oh, geez.
So maybe that.
No,
Yeah,
I
I
mean
noticed like I
that should
know.
be fine.
Yeah, I mean it just depends. Like I haven't used my Apple TV in a while. Um, it could also be on YouTube then, the YouTube app.
Yeah.
There's it's hard to
Well,
really
even if it's 2.5 gig Wi-Fi, um, is it possible to do hardwired with Ethernet?
on an Apple TV. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean like possible in Arid's situation.
Oh,
Like maybe it's too far, like he can't actually maybe the router's too far that he can't actually connect it
yeah.
to Ethernet. Um, yeah,
I will
I don't know.
say I do have problems with YouTube occasionally,
Oh, it
even
is
on any
hardwired.
device, buffering, and I have gig service, and so like
Yeah, it's probably
this
just
is
YouTube.
hardwired device. Yeah, it might just be YouTube. I've had stuff where
Yeah,
like audio will get kind of garbled, and then I'll rewind it and it'll be fine. Like so,
yeah.
YouTube's been adding stuff in the back, like on the back end, here lately. Like they just released their new stable volume thing, which is on by default on pretty much every device, which I don't like. It's fine, but it's kind of like it's meant to kind of be like almost like a dynamic compression type thing. So like every video is gonna
Oh,
be the same loudness, which
like a
by the way,
normalizer?
kind of, yeah. Which by the way, if
Yeah,
any of you guys are fans of hearing um, like audio demos on YouTube, make sure you turn that off because it wreaks havoc on those. I'm not a fan of doing audio
yeah,
demos at all on YouTube, but
yeah.
but yeah. Let's see here. I'll bring that up real quick so we can see here. So I added the this is the it's gonna there we go. Yeah, so this is with the sub is 16. Without the sub, it's 1,000. So if we go here, so this is just the standard like 1078. Yeah.
Okay. With the mount set. Okay. Bring all your entertainment to life like never before with
With this,
breakthrough sound motion technology.
that's the kind of stuff I just never read. I see that and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm all right.
I guess, that's the latest and greatest as far as the Ultra is concerned because the original ARC didn't have sound motion. What is sound motion? I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know.
Does it make it that much better? We will see.
Oh, Tor says, not gonna lie, this YouTube cast from both of you has been incredibly insightful. Well, I'm glad that it has been. We could help. Um, I don't have a TikTok, and I don't think Elon has a TikTok either. So,
No, I do.
oh, you do?
Yeah.
Well, blast him
I
out
don't
there, Tor, on TikTok if you want. Uh, let people know
I
about
don't
him.
post all that often though.
Well, you might start because he's about to send you 65,000 followers.
Yay!
15. Yeah, come on, man, get with it. No, I've begrudgingly or reluctantly like even signed up for TikTok. Um, yeah. So I just I have trouble with all social media in general. Just
Yeah.
I don't make it. I need to make more content and watch less. That's what I need to do. That's what I need to do.
That's what we need to do. That's what we all need to do.
Right. Well, anyway, I think we're 2 hours and 15 minutes. We probably wrap it up here.
Ah!
I know.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be back again same day next week. Or maybe Thursday.
Well, yeah.
Maybe Thursday.
Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the email that we got from my daughter's school saying that her final cross country meet was canceled today, and again because there's a forest fire that's north of us that's blowing smoke on us.
You're
And
blowing
because
smoke.
of
Sorry.
right up your ass. The because of the timing, because winter sports are starting
Yeah.
now. I'm pretty sure this particular one, it's not postponed anymore. I think it's just canceled. So I think the season is just over with. So I don't think there's going to be any more cross country meets.
Mm,
So we may start doing this on Thursday. So
we'll
we'll
see.
let you know.
We'll
So
see.
next week may be on Thursday, and it may be Thursday from then on out.
Henceforth through the
From
Thursdays.
henceforth, yes,
Anyway.
we have decreed.
Isn't that a character from The Office? The Creed?
Yeah.
Get it? Never mind. The guitarist from that one band.
Yeah.
Did you know that he was really a guitarist for oh gosh.
The guy, you mean the guy who played Creed?
Yeah, Creed Bratton.
He was
what was
a
his band?
guitarist for a band?
Yeah, for in the 60s, the Grassroots.
Wow.
Yeah, look him up. You'll be like, whoa, there's actually video of him in the 60s.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. And he looks exactly the same, except, younger. It's crazy.
Well, there's your trivia for next time you're at trivia night, folks.
Yes. The Grassroots, Creed Bratton.
What
Look him up.
What band did the actor who played Creed on The Office? What was the band name?
And their popular hit,
Don't Shake My Leg.
Let's Live for Today.
There we go. That sounds better.
Yeah. Let's live for Don't Shake My Leg. The Scranton Strangler is the name of the. Anyway, well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. We'll see you here again next week, hopefully. And yeah, that's it.
Have
Thank
a
you.
great night.
Yes. Don't forget to subscribe. You ready for your little jingle?
Always.
Here we go. See you guys.
Ah. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to get notifications.